Over the past few months, I've been taking a course on open source software at Oregon State University. And one of the requirements for the class was to contribute to a real open source project. Not just reading about open source, but actually jumping in, finding an issue, and working with maintainers and submitting a pull request. So in this video, I want to walk you through my entire journey contributing to an open source project called Silex, what I learned, and how the maintainers responded, and what it was like navigating a real open source code base for the first time. The project I contributed to is called Silex, which is an open source website builder built on top of Grapes.js. It allows users to visually build websites without writing code, kind of like a drag and drop website editor. The project is open source and released under the GNU General Public License version 3, which is an OSI approved open source license. One of the reasons this project qualified for the assignment is because it's large and active repository with many contributors, multiple source files, and thousands of lines of code. So this wasn't a toy project, it's something real people actually use. When I started the course, my main goal was to find a project where I could contribute something meaningful while also learning how open source development actually works. I'm especially interested in user and human-computer interaction. That's actually my computer science focus. So I wanted to find a project where usability improvements would matter. To find projects, I searched GitHub for active repositories and looked through issues labeled things like good first issue, and eventually I found Silex. And what stood out to me was that it had active maintainers and real discussions happening in the issue section. So instead of immediately writing code, I actually started by doing a usability evaluation of Silex. I had participants participate in a usability study where I had them think out loud and navigate the application in real time. And while exploring the interface, I noticed something interesting. Some of the most basic styling options were actually hard to find for beginners. And that's what Silex is meant for. It's meant for non-technical people who do not have an understanding of how to write code to make a website. So some of the most basic styling options were actually hard to find for beginners. For example, things like background color, text color, padding, and fonts and font size. These are things beginners often want to change immediately, but the controls were somewhat buried in the style panel. So I opened an issue on GitHub explaining my observations and suggesting that the interface could be improved to make these options easier to discover. One of the really cool moments during this process was that the maintainers actually responded to my issue. Instead of just saying, "Thanks," they asked a really important question. How would you see this fixed? And they suggested the idea of creating a beginner section in the style panel, where common styling options could be grouped together. This conversation was really valuable because it showed me how open source development often works. Instead of contributors just submitting code blindly, there's actually a discussion and collaboration that's happening at first. So after discussing the idea, I started working on solutions locally. So first I cloned the Silex repository and ran the project locally on my machine. Then I explored the code base to understand how the style manager panel was structured. Eventually, I implemented a new basics section inside the style panel that groups together the most common styling options. This section includes background color, text color, font size, and padding. The idea is that beginners can quickly find the most common styling controls without digging through the entire interface. After implementing the changes, I tested everything locally to make sure the UI worked properly. Once the feature was implemented, I submitted a pull request to the Silex repository. A pull request, if you guys are not familiar with that, is basically how contributors propose changes to an open source project. At the time of recording this video, the PR is still under review by the maintainers, and that's actually pretty normal in open source. Reviews can take time depending on the project. This experience taught me a lot about how open source actually works in practice. First, contributing to a large project can feel intimidating at first because the code base is big and unfamiliar. But once you start exploring it step by step, it becomes manageable. Second, communication with maintainers is incredibly important. The discussion around the issue helped me shape the final solution. And finally, open source contributions aren't just about writing code. Usability, insights, testing, documentation, and feedback are all valuable contributions that can help improve a project. So that was my journey, contributing to the Silex open source project. Whether this PR gets merged or not, the experience itself was incredibly valuable. If you're a developer or a student thinking about contributing to open source, my advice is simple. Start small, be curious, and don't be afraid to open an issue. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.